Good evening, everyone watching us and tuned in. Welcome to the fourth episode of Psychological Capital with this virtual talk brought to you by Workington Qatar. I'm joined again by TJ Mirgan and Farah Locke, who are the creators of the platform Power of Happiness, and we've been talking about psychological capital. And today is the fourth and final pillar. And just to recap on them, the acronym is HOPE. The acronym is HERO, and the first one is being hope, and the second one is self-efficacy. The third one was resilience.
Yes.
And today is the final one, which is optimism.
Yes.
So, like every session that we've had, I did not think that each pillar was so, there was a lot of substance that I thought was, generally was taken for granted, like hope. I didn't know that there was a discipline or a definition, and I've learned a lot about that. Also, resilience and self-efficacy. So today, I guess we'll go to the last one, which is optimism, and I can't wait to learn about optimism, because for me, just off the straight off the bat, it's like a mindset, and it's this thing that drives you, and you just want to be, you're either an optimistic person or not. But apparently, you can learn to become more optimistic. So if I can start today's session with the first question, which is, what is optimism?
You're very right, in fact, because I was thinking that I am optimistic, but when I go into that a couple of years ago, I understood that I was, not really optimist. And now I called myself recovered optimist. Worked on it a little bit.
Fantastic. So you will share your journey with us on how you became...
Yeah, optimism is, by definition, when you look at the dictionary, is making a positive attribution about succeeding now and the future. And it is, in fact, looking at a more favorable side of events and simply anticipating the best possible outcomes in any situation. So just think about the outcomes will be good. Optimists are those who expect good things to happen, whereas pessimists instead predict unfavorable outcomes. That's maybe the very simple explanation. Optimism to me is the most fascinating pillar of psyche. It is important in terms of your well-being and your physical health, your emotional health, and we will talk about that during the panel anyway. I think that part of the reason that I'm fascinated, as I said, because I'm a recovered pessimist. I was one of these people who was a little bit, cranky on some challenges. I was believing that in order to something good to happen, I need to work on it. Optimists, however, believe the good things will happen to them in the future anyway. Have you heard the Rumi, Mevlana, our famous philosopher?
Yes.
Yeah, he says, live life as if everything is rigid in your favor. So he's quite an optimistic person.
Yeah.
So, if you are an optimist, you feel that good things will happen in future, and you feel like you will succeed in the life challenges. You feel that the future looks bright. I like this sentence. The future will be bright. You think that even good things can come from tragedies. You see challenges or obstacles as opportunities to learn. You are always looking for ways to make the things happen. I can count, you have a positive attitude about yourself and others. So really, I strongly believe the importance of optimism. And optimism is something that we can learn. Maybe Farah explained.
Yeah.
But how to learn
before before we go there, you're saying about, you're using the word feel a lot. Does that mean it is kind of an intrinsic thing where it is an attribute or a characteristic of an individual, or is it an action? Like, what do optimists do? Like, is it a statement of mind? Is it self-driven, or is it something that you do to become optimistic?
Yeah, I try to tell you that, if you feel like this, you are an optimist. But
okay.
how we will do it, maybe we will tell later in the panel.
Okay, great. Cool. The second question, Farah, if you could carry on from that, is how do we assess optimism? And is there different scales of optimism?
Well, first of all, let me add a little bit to Tijen, actually. What do optimists do differently, she was explaining. And I would like to add another quote to her speech, which comes from Winston Churchill, actually. A pessimist sees the difficulty in every opportunity, he says. An optimist sees the opportunity in every difficulty. So it means that optimists see possibilities and pessimists see the problems. So I think that's also another quote that is very valuable.
That's good contribution. Thank you.
Okay, so how do you assess optimism? How do we understand if we are an optimist or not? There are some tests, and one of the very well-known ones is the LOT/R test, which means life orientation test, and it is revised recently, so it is LOT/R. And it is developed by the researchers Dr. Carver and Shire, and it assesses dispositional optimism. An example of an item is, in uncertain times, I expect the best. Okay? And if you endorse that, that's an indicator of optimism. So if I accept the best, it's an indicator of optimism. And another item is, for example, I rarely count on good things happening to me. So if you endorse that answer, that's more of an indicator of a more pessimistic or less optimistic person. So actually, there is another way of assessing optimism, which I like better than this one. And it's called Explanatory Style. And it comes from Dr. Seligman. Again, we have mentioned his name earlier, probably. He's the father of positive psychology. So this is another way to think about optimism, which is to take a close look at how we explain the causes of the good and the bad things that happen to us. So most of us have a habitual, reflective way of explaining to ourselves why these good things happened or why these bad things happen to us. So it looks at it in 3 dimensions. The first dimension is internal versus external. So for some of us, when something bad happens, our brains focus on an internal explanation for why that bad thing happened. We believe that we are the cause of that bad event, okay, internally. Some other people, when something bad happens, believe that external factors are the cause of that bad event. They say it's because of the people around me, it's because of the circumstances, it's because of the pandemic or whatever, it's because of the workplace that I'm working in. So one dimension is this one, internal versus external. If you believe that the causes of the problems you confront are due to you, you are the root cause, or do you believe that it's external factors that led to bad outcomes? Okay. And the second dimension is stable versus unstable. So when something bad happens, does your brain tend to focus on the stable causes of the problem, the things that are unchangeable, that are permanent, that you cannot do anything about? Or does your brain tend to focus on the unstable causes of the problem, the things that are fleeting and temporary, and that you can exert some control over them? So the second dimension is stable versus unstable. And the third dimension is global versus specific. So in this one, when something bad happens to your life, does your brain focus on the causes of the problem that are going to lead to lots of other problems too? That it's going to be, bleeding into lots of other areas of your life? Or do you explain the causes of your setbacks as very specific causes? Yeah, it led to that negative outcome, but it's not going to lead to negative outcomes in every aspect of my life. Okay, it affected my work, but it will not affect my life at home, or it affected my life at home. But I will continue to do my job, and it's going to be okay. So the three dimensions of the explanatory style are: when bad things happen, do you believe that it's internal or external? That it's stable or unstable? Or it's global, or it's very specific? So, yes.
No, go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
Okay. So, what do you think about yourself? Are you ready for a quiz?
Sure, why not? I'm
Okay.
always ready. Let's go.
So,
You can tell me if
answer
I'm
me.
optimistic or not. I think I'm a pessimist, but I have a big smile.
Good. You don't show. Okay.
I'm ready for a quiz. Let's go.
Okay. So, do you view most things are your fault? Yes
No.
or no? No.
No.
Good. Do you have all or nothing thinking? All or nothing? Which one?
Black or white?
Nothing. I don't know. It's such a it sounds like a simple question, but so broad. Like, do I believe?
Yeah.
Do I believe in
Gray
nothing?
levels?
Sorry.
Do you have gray levels or just white and black?
Oh no, there's a lot of gray. There's
Good.
a lot of gray.
That's good. So do problems become catastrophes in your lives, or you just, put them in boxes and leave them there?
They become problems, yes.
Big problems. Okay. So you got to be careful about that one.
Yeah.
Are you a perfectionist?
Yes.
Do you have a hard time accepting compliments?
Yes.
Yes. Do you seek the approval and opinion of others before acting on anything?
No.
No. So it's 50-50, Tijana, isn't it?
Seems so, yeah. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
meet optimist, not
Yeah.
There's hope for me, is what you're saying.
not highly optimist.
You have areas to develop on, okay?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that statement, believe me. But I feel like this is one thing that I don't know what it is if we are trained for, like, you're developing life, whether you're in school or starting your career or in university or midway through your career. You're kind of formulated, your opinions are formulated. There's a way and a process, and with news and the way in social life and interactions at work and at home and just living, I think we're trained to always look at the bad rather than the good. We focus a lot more on, for example, now with the pandemic, at the start of it, when it was first announced, I mean, that was a huge set of problems for my business, and it was made me kind of, I spiraled into depression because we were focusing on, as you said, the explanatory was the unstable, and it was focusing a lot on the unstable things, but there was a lot of things that were stable, but I wasn't focusing on that. I was focusing on the, all of the negative things, like, oh, what's going to happen tomorrow? What does this what do I have to do with my staff? How does this affect my health, my well-being at home? And it was, it's a huge challenge for someone like me who's used to always being outside and constantly having meetings and moving around and always nomadic in every sense of the word, but then to be forced to stay home, I was focused so much on, you know, the fact that I have to be here rather than what I could do while I'm here. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that took me a while to get out of that because, and it wasn't a special thing for me because I was just following the trend, you know. It was 2 months of chaos and instability, and then you kind of just got used to it and you got sick of it, really. Everything you did for the first 2 months was COVID, this, COVID, 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 and it was just
Yeah.
like, so is it, Tijan, is it, are we trained to be pessimists from the way we live?
It is not maybe trained, but unfortunately, the human brain has a natural tendency to give weight to negative experiences more than positive ones. This is coming from the brain. It's really the main tendency. However, I mean, usually we find ourselves dwelling into some biased decisions on our mistakes. Criticism often have a greater impact on greater impacts than compliments. Bad news frequently draw more attention than the good. This is the way, unfortunately, how the brain works, and we have to train our brains. Like, you know, how we are riding a bicycle, we train ourselves. We have to train our brain as well. The reason for this, negative events have a greater impact on our brain. We psychologists call that negative bias. This is something really scientifically known. And it can have a powerful effect on our behavior, our decisions, our relations. So important to know that how your brain works, and we have to learn that. The more we know about how our brain works and what's happening physically inside our brain and our body, the more we can cope with the stressful situations. The reason why we really have negative tendency, because there is a chemical called cortisol that is related to our hormones and related with our stress levels. It is a chemical in our brain that tends to flow more freely and create negative thoughts. And unfortunately, our brain really loves cortisol, known as an alarm system. Your brain releases the chemical cortisol as a way to warn us about a danger. The danger is coming. And let's be honest, that's pretty helpful at sometimes. I mean, you are stuck on a highway because of a traffic accident, for example, or you are late to your meeting and you heard that a toxic person is in the office spreading some rumors about you. These experiences are very common, isn't it? I mean, these are all daily, we are living all these experiences. And even these simple things trigger cortisol in our brain, which is end up with negative thoughts. Unfortunately, they come easily than positive thoughts.
Exactly. I mean, I can understand this from like a evolutionary perspective, you know, when it's danger, survival.
Exactly.
You know, but right now in our life, you're telling me that we can train to be more optimistic and we can train our brains to become more optimistic. But at the same time, there's a biological thing that is happening, which is causing us to be restrictive and afraid and looped into our own danger. Danger is coming, stress, think about the problem, be aware of the problem, and our brain feeds on that. Do we have to change the biology? Is that?
Yes. What we can do, we can try, help the endorphin or serotonin would be released as well. So that could be the balance. And there are a couple of ways. There are very simple activities. There are some really scientific experiences that we can train our brain. One of them is called, for example, the bounce principle. It is something I've been doing for some time personally, and it works really. With that, we can bounce away negative thoughts and bring some positives. It means when, for example, that easy flowing cortisol makes you think negatively, you bounce the dark cloud away and think a positive thought instead. So you have to really work on it. It is not maybe easy, but you can work on it.
Like a quick example, is this a state of awareness in a problem? The next time you're in traffic, you are aware that you might get stressed, and it might affect your way of thinking. Do you just dismiss those ideas and try and think of a happier idea?
What can you do, for example, when you stuck in the traffic? Usually you got stressed and you start thinking that I will be late and there will be a meeting without me, and I will be, in a difficult situation, lose my credibility. But instead, you start thinking that it's not the end of the world, and I have a reasonable excuse that there is a traffic accident, and I can connect via my phone, cellular phone. We learned it during pandemic. So if I'm late, then I can still attend to the meeting through cellular phone. That makes you relief. That makes, a little bit away from negative thoughts. Start thinking positively. For example, I can give other example, an accusing email, a criticism about a sales call, or, again, an accusation about being late every day. That was, for example, one of the examples I faced a couple of years ago. Instead of, going into negativity, think of a positive angle instead. That person accusing you might have a bad day or bad night, or had a difficult time with this family. Think about that. And you can offer even some encouragement instead of, negatively thinking. And the sales call was a bummer for everyone involved, not only you, but you could think of that, what you learned about it and how you can do better next time. Or if you are always late to work, maybe you could refocus your thoughts on how, it is not end of the world, and you have done your sports, which will help you to deal the anxiety whole day, releasing some endorphin and serotonin. So
I knew you were going to bring it up. I knew. I was just waiting for you to say exercise. Is it so? The bounce principle is it's a change of thinking. It's an active change of the thought, escaping the okay.
Negative. Instead of putting some negative statements, put some positives.
Okay.
And like the bounce principle, there are other ways to teach your brain to think more positive. Very simple practices, and we are using it during our workshops a lot. For example, each and every night before you sleep, just think about 3 positive things you did or faced that specific day. These are not, shouldn't be very major things. Even, I played with my pet, a cat, or I called a friend that I haven't heard long time. These kind of very small things, but which made you happy. And you may even write them on the notebook, a small notebook. Put a small notebook next to your bed, and put a note on it. And if you do it continuously for certain times, some people say more than a month, some people say at least 21 day, your brain will start thinking more positively. You will train your brain, and endorphin will win, against cortisol.
Again, it takes work, and this is the thing that keeps coming up. It's not, you still have to train yourself. You have to commit to yourself. I think if there's any common denominator for all of the pillars of wealth and psychological capital, is that it's awareness and developing. There's work that needs to go into each pillar. So being hopeful,
Exactly.
increasing your self-efficacy, increasing your resilience, and these all of them kind of are coming to a resolution now when we're talking about optimism, because if you're not able to bounce back and be resilient, you're definitely not someone who has an optimistic way of, an optimistic outlook. Or you'll be a lot less optimistic as an individual. If you're someone who's not very hopeful, I think those two things also, they go hand in hand. If you're not someone who is training yourself and working on understanding to be hopeful, you still, you won't get to that level of optimism that will allow you to be a bit more at peace the next time you're faced with a challenge or a problem.
Usually we gave a ratio during our happiness workshops. 50% of happiness comes from your genes, unfortunately. So this is something, inside of you. You can't create it. 50%, if you have it, you're lucky. If not, gone. And there is only 10% effect of, all what we are thinking about, your religion, your country you're living, your money you gain, your living conditions, the country, etc. Only 10% effect on your happiness, 10%. And the rest, which is 40%, you have to work on it. You, as we are talking now, you have to train your brain, you have to, understand your abilities, your skills. You have to increase your awareness level. You have to calm down yourself, etc. So this ratio is, I think, very important.
I think we focus a lot on the 10%, though.
Exactly.
A lot of us are just, how I make my money, who my friends are, where I'm going to do that. That has a huge impact, definitely, on how we, there's I can't remember who said this quote, but it's like, tell me who your friends are, I'll tell you what kind of person you are, and what social circles you're in definitely affect. And I think that's why, the answer to the question that I had was, we're paying a lot of attention to it, is, you've put some figures on it now, but that small 10% affects hugely in that individual. Even if you have that 50%, if you are naturally an optimistic person, as you said, genetic coding that you're better, or you have it or you don't, we still focus on that 10%, right?
Yeah.
A lot of our energy is
going there.
And this brings me to the next question. There's the term learned optimism, which, it's a methodology. It's researched, and Farah, you're gonna please tell me, because I have not, just that term, if it's something that is that we could do, really want to be able to learn from that, and for everyone else to learn. And just a point to everyone listening, if you do have questions, put them in the comments and we will get to them towards the last 15 to 20 minutes of the session.
Okay.
So we're not forgetting all your comments. We will answer them, but I just really want to focus on this methodology of learned optimism.
Actually, it is very related to what Tijan was explaining a few minutes ago. And what you're asking is that, can we learn to have a positive outlook, or how, if we can do that, how it would change our life? And those are the questions asked by many people, and especially, again, by Martin Seligman, who is the father of positive psychology. So according to him, the process of learning to be optimistic is an important way to help people, maximize their mental health and live better lives, as we mentioned. And with a more joyful outlook on life, he explains that we're in a much better position to enhance our well-being. And when we say well-being, is mental health and physical health, definitely. So how can we start on this? How can we start to change our mindset? And how can we start to change our life to have a positive outlook? And if you, I think you are, Hamad, if you love to lead a life from a, a glass half full with a splash of ice on it perspective, then you are ready to hear this, definitely. So, learned optimism involves developing the ability to view the world from a positive point of view. It's often contrasted with learned helplessness, which we definitely have more, as Tijan said, maybe 5 times more in our pockets. By challenging negative self-talk and replacing pessimistic thoughts with more positive ones, people can learn how to become more optimistic. And Seligman's work suggests that it's possible to learn the skills that you can that can help you become more optimistic person. So anyone can learn these skills, no matter how pessimistic they are. And he has a I cannot say easy approach, but the name is very easy. It's ABCDE approach. Okay. So the A is adversity.
Very, very, very easy to forget that, isn't it?
Yes, you can remember the name very easily. So A is for adversity, okay? The situation that calls for a response. It's a hard situation. Like, for example, Tijan said, she was stuck in the traffic and late for a very important meeting, something that is adverse at that moment. And B is for belief, how we interpret that event, how we take in that. You know? C is the consequence, the way that we behave, respond, or feel because of that event. D is disputation, so the effort we expend to argue or dispute the belief. And E is for energization, the outcome that emerges from trying to challenge our beliefs. And we can use it to be more optimistic. So how we can do it? For example, think of a recent sort of adversity you have faced. Okay. It might be something related to your health, your family, your relationships, your job, or any other challenge that you experienced recently. So, for example, imagine that you recently started a new exercise. Okay, I will go on with exercise for Tijan's eyes only. A new exercise plan, but you are having trouble sticking with it. Okay. So B is for belief, you remember. So make a note of the type of thoughts that are running through your mind when you think about this adversity. Yep. And be as honest as you can, and do not try to, sugarcoat or edit your feelings. Be honest. So you can think things like, I'm not good at following my workout plan. I'll never be able to reach my goals. I'm not strong enough to, wake up every morning and run. This can be your beliefs. And then you go to see consequence. Consider what sort of consequences and behaviors emerge from the beliefs you recorded in step 2, that is in the belief step. Did such beliefs result in positive actions, or did they keep you from reaching your goals? Thinking like, I'm not strong enough anyway. I will never going to do this. I tried before, but couldn't do it. Did it help you or didn't it? So you might quickly realize that the negative beliefs you expressed made it more difficult to stick with your workout plan. Because, when you are, going to bed at night thinking like that, you wouldn't get up in the morning. You would say, okay, this is my normal behavior. I will not stick to it. I'm not, strong enough to wake up every morning at 6 o'clock and run. So I will sleep over. So perhaps you start skipping workouts more and put in less effort when you go to the gym. So be aware of the negative beliefs you have. And then D is for dispute. Dispute your beliefs. Think about your beliefs and look for examples that prove them wrong. Look for examples that will challenge your assumptions. So you can say that, there were times that I successfully finished my workout. There were times that I woke up every morning for 10 days and went for a run with a friend, and I never failed him or her. Okay? So work towards it. Think of the times that you succeeded and work towards those, think of those times and, take that energy. So this last one is energization. Consider how you feel that you have challenged your beliefs. How did disputing your earlier beliefs make you feel? After thinking of times you have worked hard toward your goal, you may be left feeling more energized, more motivated. And now that you have seen that it isn't as hopeless as you previously believed, you may be more inspired to keep working on your goals, okay? So take this ABCDE, and if it is exercise, for example, you may, if you, believe in this, you will probably find the energy to wake up in the morning and go for a run or go to the gym after work, because you have disputed your beliefs, the negative ones, with the positive ones.
Principle, this can apply to you as an individual for your mental health, or can it also apply for any business solution or project that you're working on? Are they synonymous, or is this specifically
Definitely. Actually, in these talks, we have concentrated more on individuals, but even for the business environment, we talk about the resilience of the business environment. We talk about the hope in the business, how you can create hope and how you can create psychological safety in that environment. So it definitely helps on your goals on business.
I mean, one thing when we talk about mental health, and from my personal experience, something that I don't always publicly talk about, but we're here now, so I might as well. There's, depression, procrastination, self-doubt, self-loathing, all of these thoughts. I mean, it's when we're talking about it, and the ABCDE, waking up every morning sometimes is a challenge, because in your head, like before you go to sleep, okay, I need to wake up tomorrow at this time to get this done, and I have to go to this meeting, and I have to do these things, and to achieve the goals that I want to do for that day. But then you wake up and it's like, if you're suffering from depression, you just, the voices in your head is putting you down. There is no competition with yourself. You've surrendered to this reality that, your self-worth is completely gone. It's below, you wake up and you're telling yourself that you're worthless. You're telling yourself that you can't achieve these things, and you keep pushing it till tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. And that then creates a set of physical challenges where you can actually, you physically cannot do. So you can't get out of the bed, or you cannot send that email, or you cannot, it cripples you physically just from these, the way of thinking. So if you are someone who does, if you've gone to a psychiatrist and they've given you pills and, and for me personally, it didn't work, but how is this something that can be, when you're looking at your psychological capital, and then you're looking at a case where someone has, a medical condition of a mental issue. How is this, where is the balance in those two? Is it understanding that you have a problem, one, and then taking these practices in, or is the first step seeking help and going to a professional before? I mean, is these principles applying them? I'm saying this because I know how difficult it is to, number one, admit that you have a problem and that you need to go see someone.
Mm-hmm.
And then number two, when you have that, you have to actually do the work. But from a person who is constantly procrastinating and understands that they're in this rut all the time and they don't believe in themselves, the result or the resolution of becoming more productive and happy and increasing your happiness and well-being, it's a little easier said than done sometimes.
Well, actually, Hamad, it is not that, when we're talking about psychological capital here, we are always talking towards the goals that we have for the future. Okay, this is not something that we are stuck like, and something that we need therapy on. These are the things that we, that are the good goals, the aims that we put in our lives. So you can work on them, just with, for example, in coaching, we do that. We take the goal, okay, your goal, and okay, there are some, negative voices probably in your head saying that, as you said, you cannot do this, you are not good enough, you are not, I don't know, beautiful enough, you are not capable for this, or whatever. So just hear them. Say, okay, these are our inner critic voices, actually. Just say that, okay, I hear you. I know these voices. I know these sentences very well. I memorized them. You always tell them this. Okay, keep telling them. But I will not, go to the other room. I will not listen to you this today. And I will work for my goal. Because, and then you can work on the because side, because it is important for me. My health is important for me. I have a small baby. I want to be healthy for him or her. Or, I like my life very much, and I want to run a healthy life. Or some other goal. I want to be the president of this company. So this is my dream. So I will work for my dream. You can just dream and then have your goals and work for them. Okay, on the way, there may be some barriers that you need to, skip through. And when you go and see the barriers, search for your support systems, the strength you have, the strength you have inside, and the people you can take support from. Search for them to skip through the barriers.
In fact, the professional coaching is kind of a, expertise to help those people who really are suffering. As you said, I'm trying to find the balance. So really getting coaching from the experts is really helping a lot. Putting some, right thinking on the way, because with the coaching, I mean, the expert is really trying to draw the line to those direction.
Yeah.
But sometimes that is not enough. There are cases that while we're giving professional coaching, we see that the situation is more than that. Then the psychological support might be needed. But usually, really, professional coaching is helping a lot.
And there's understanding that you have, I like the point that you said, Farah, about this is everything we're talking about, psychological capital is about the future. It's we have a goal that we want to achieve. It's something that our actions today will get us to a point. There's a destination that we are working for. And with the final pillar of the psychological capital being optimism, is it safe to say that the benefits of optimism are that you are always closer to achieving the goal? Is that a benefit of it? If it is one, Tijan?
Yeah, in fact, there are many benefits, and one of them is the performance, of course. The other one is really optimist people can cope with the stress more effectively. That's for sure. Maybe because they see the future bright, so they really think that things will go living today somehow will pass away. And also optimism has impacts on our relations. People who are more optimistic compared to less optimistic, have a greater social support because when you are optimistic, you are cheery, you are easygoing, and you are easier to be around. So optimists have much better relations, and also they have increased relationship satisfaction. I mean, if you are an optimist and you are in a relation, you're more likely to notice the good things that are going in that relation. Whereas if someone is less optimistic, more pessimistic, noticing all of the problems that in this relation, and therefore less satisfied. And there are studies really a lot going on mental and emotional well-being side, and definitely it affects well-being positively. This is one of the major benefits of it. And also research shows that the optimism is very related with depression. More optimistic you are, the less likely you are experiencing symptoms of depression. Again, because maybe optimists see the future bright, so they might buffer against feeling of depression. Also, optimist people can maintain motivation much better when trying to lose weight, for example, if your goal is that. Pessimists might have come up with that the diet will never work for her. On the other hand, optimists are...
People follow, when I talk about health and diet and everything, it's incredible how many times I hear, diets don't do anything. Diets they never work. It's like, pretty sure they do. Like, it's the food that you put in your mouth.
But this is, when you believe it, when you see the future bright, then you work on it. If don't, then you will find excuses of yourself. I mean, that this is not good for me. I do it, but never works. So this is also something. And it is interesting, but it is related with the physical health also. If you are optimist, your immune system works better. Means that you get less likely to get sick. And I think this is important. There are studies that, for example, optimist people have less coronary artery diseases. Mortality, optimism affects mortality. And it's maybe the last example I would like to give. There is a study done by 97,000 women by the University of Pittsburgh. It's a grant study. And the researchers did they followed these women for 8 years, not very short. And they look at people who were in the top quartile of optimism, and they measure it using some kind of life orientation tests. And they compared women who were on the top quartile of optimism to the bottom quartile. And what they find, the women in the top quartile were 14% less likely to die in this 8 years period from any cause, and 30% less likely to die specifically from heart disease. So really, it affects the mortality. Optimist people live longer.
That's so painful to hear. There's a fine line between optimism and being pretentious, it's a very, very thin line, as you said about, having better social relations. Sometimes I'm there and there's all these bubbly people and I'm like, it's me, because they're too bubbly, they're too happy. You know what I mean? It's like, it comes across almost as pretentious, but it's just a joke. Let's not think it. I'm sorry for letting people see otherwise. But one thing I want to ask is, you're telling these statistics, and I think results, even as small as they are, I take it back to hope, the first session that we had when, Farah, you talked about how we can increase hope in the business. And the mindset of your people to be more hopeful in your business. It was small goals, small achievements, and recognizing those achievements. So if you are not, increasing, if it was a metric, if we can measure it, increasing your optimism, any results of the goals, however small, should also keep you going in terms of becoming an optimistic person. So whether it's in a relationship, you focus on the good. There are days when you'll just look at the bad, but because you're practicing and trained to be someone who is always looking at the good side of it, you'll see these results. And do the results affect your well-being overall, and they affect your mental state because you're conscious of results? Are we not paying attention to the results of our actions when we're looking at becoming more optimistic, or are results not important? It's the mindset rather than the result.
Well, actually, it is so related to each other. As you say, with optimism, you can put yourself more optimistic, and actually optimistic and realistic goals, and maybe some baby steps. And you take when you are an optimistic person, you see the baby steps as important steps. You don't say that, okay, this is a very small goal for me. Why should I play for this? But you take, okay, this is one step towards my ultimate goal. So today I'm very happy to take this, and then you have more hope to reach your ultimate goal. And this goes on with, if something happens on the way, if you are a resilient person, you say, okay, I fall down, but I know how to get up and continue my way towards my goal. So it is very related to each other, optimism, hope, resilience, and of course, self-efficacy, knowing that you are capable to do this. Every person is capable to do it. That's the main message, actually. Everyone is resourceful, and everyone is a whole, and everyone is capable to have better psychological capital and work for their goals. Everyone can do this.
Yeah, the capabilities, talents might be different, but at the end, everybody is equal, achieving all these 4 pillars of psychological cap. And it has a multiplying effect. If you are an optimist, you are more resilient. If you have set your goals, hope in a good way, then you are more optimistic. So it is, kind of a multiplying effect of these circles.
I used to say that some of the hardest things to do is setting the goal sometimes. Because once you have a really clear defined goal, everything kind of falls into place. If you have a clear goal, you'll know you'll pick a better team. You'll work with people who are, you'll attract similar like-minded people who will believe in you to get to your goal. But if you don't have that defined clear goal, like I want to buy this car in the next 3 years, or I want to buy a house in X amount of time, or I want to build this solution to sell it, you know what I mean? Whatever it is, as long as it's a very clear goal and it's not, we do this in like entrepreneurial training where it's, you have your elevator pitch. If you can't say your goal in like very clearly in a very short amount of time, it's going to be very difficult to sell your idea and achieve that goal. So I think the hardest thing is getting the goal very clear, what you want to achieve, and then kind of, once that is clear, and you'll get the buy-in from number one yourself, and then kind of just works.
You are kind of talking about selling the goal to yourself.
Yeah.
Selling your goal to yourself, actually, or buying your goal, wholeheartedly. So just be careful there. When you set a goal for yourself, like for example, I want to buy a house for my family in 2 years. Okay. Yeah, that this is a concrete, good goal, but be careful about your feelings, what it will bring to your life, and run after that. So what about the house, what it will bring to your life? Maybe some safety, some energy, some more family time, some comfortable
Maybe
time with the family.
a
So,
status quo.
or status quo, yeah. So run after them. I mean, run after the things that is valuable for you.
Mm.
You
And
understand?
also, the goal should be smart. I mean, achievable,
Mhm.
Yeah.
uh,
Realistic.
realistic.
Realistic, yeah, measurable, realistic, achievable.
Yeah.
So this is important. And maybe buying a house is a huge goal. So put it in some pieces. Maybe, reserving money for every month, that amount could be your first goal. And once you achieve it, you will feel happy that because you're going to your goal one step further.
Now it's time for the public questions. I promised you we will be back, and we are here. So the first, we have an essay written by Kerem, the GM of Worktowards. We will get to that. But the first question, great conversation from John. If it is a natural inclination for us to be negative, how then do we ensure that, for example, children are brought up to be optimists? Is that possible, or is being negative inevitable? Oh, well.
Wow.
I think that was asked when we were talking about cortisol and the biological inclination for us to be very negative, I think. So.
Well, I think when it comes to children, I believe that people who have decided to have, children, really needs to work on that. I mean, work on being a role model, because they will be copying what they have seen. So if you work on this, if you work on your own psychological capital, on your own positive outlook, and bring it to your house, bring it to the environment that you are when you are together with your children, I think it will help a lot. So just remember, even yes, they will have some things coming from their genes, yes, of course, but when playing with them, when talking to them, and when you are together in the house, just create that environment and work on it for your children. It works. It's much more important than sending them to great schools, because they learn more from the family.
And I can tell you for a fact that they're training me every day, and it's weird how similar some of the stuff they do. Like, it's before it's like you just think that it's the school and the amount of people, but then it's you have a kid and you're like, wow, this is my daughter is as stubborn as me, and my son is as bubbly as me. Like they're like, and
Little copies.
me and my wife are always competing. Oh no, this is your trait. Oh, this is more like you, mom. This is more like you. So yeah, it is a fair point, but again, it's a lot of work. It takes difficult. You have to have this awareness. So shall we read the essay? I think all of these concepts can be applied very easily to individual athletes or sports teams, especially after failures and successes. Also, there are obvious links to the rest of the resources of psychological capital, and it makes a lot of sense. For example, a person with low efficacy, or a person with not a lot of resilience muscles, or a hopeless person would not tend to be an optimist. Now that we are more familiar with all the resources, I'm completely convinced psychological capital is indeed our greatest asset. I strongly believe these concepts should be introduced at earlier ages and should be practiced over time. Positive impact on social life and on our career is inevitable. See, this is a prime example of when you're the parent and your children copy you. So just for those who don't know, Kevin is the son of Tijen. Sorry to blow that bubble, but and he's also a good friend of mine. And that's why he's talking about.
I did my job at
You did.
early age. I did it.
Well done. And then this is I guess this is why he's saying this. Hamid Amari referencing to my first comments about sports teams. I remember Hamid was not very optimistic about Liverpool going to Champions League next year. But the only way for the team to achieve this was probably their ability as a strong team to stay optimistic. Liverpool is the greatest team in the history of mankind, Kevin. Thank you very much for that comment. But I'm very happy to first of all learn a lot from these sessions and understand that, you know, psychological capital is something that I did not know about before we talked about it. It was little segments, but the way you articulated them in these sessions has been a huge value to me. And just not only that, the references, the more reading, the more learning that I'm doing, and I hope that that's been driven to everyone who's tuning into these virtual talks. And I have to thank Kerem and everyone at Workington Qatar for these virtual talks. We will continue to have them with Workington Qatar. And it's, you know, and it's good for us to be able to just share this, and hopefully this will add value to a lot of members of our community here in Doha or wherever they're joining us from. And thank you both, Farah and Tijan, so much for your time, your devotion, your smiles, and the way you articulate your points. It's been very just fun and educational, and I don't want this to be the last one. So offline, we'll probably talk about how we can discuss, hopefully doing more together with the power of happiness. And I will give it to you if you have any last words before we wrap up this session.
It was also exciting and good being with you, to know you personally, and community in Qatar. So it was a good experience for us as well. I mean, being abroad and talking about all these topics, which are not easy topics with you. So thank you very much to provide us such an opportunity.
Yes.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, it's been a real pleasure being with you for 4 weeks now. And yes, we hope to continue with some things related to these subjects. Maybe we can do that. Thank you.
Inshallah.
Thank you.
Thank you
very
all.
much.
And we will be back with more virtual talks here at Workington. Huge thanks once again to you, Tijan and Farah, for your time. For everyone watching, we'll be back with more virtual talks. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Workington Qatar. For me, it's at Hamid Amari. And do you have an Instagram or a website? We can write it in the comment section here for Power of Happiness. Is there a in the comment section so that people can?
Let's write that.
Yeah. That's it from us. I guess I just don't want to wrap off. I'm having so much fun. But for the public, bye-bye. See you in another one.
Bye-bye.
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 See you next time, hopefully.